And we should be go. Hello, everyone. Hi, good to see. Wow, somebody's in chat already. How exciting! My name is Amber Autumn, and today, for some godforsaken reason, I have decided to compile my list of the top 100 hottest treacheries in Arkham Horror the card game. If you don't play Arkham Horror the card game, this is probably not going to make an enormous amount of sense to you, but honestly, you don't really need to know about the mechanics of the game anyway to understand what's happening. If you do play it, or honestly, even if you don't play it, it's going to be a long series of treacheries, and the reasons I think that they're hot. 100 of them, in fact. I don't know why you would want to watch such a thing, but if in case you do, you can. This is your opportunity to do exactly that. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more of a preamble than that. I think it's pretty on its face, and it's already going to take a minute to get through it. So I think we just get going with number 100, Figure in the Shadows. There's about 700 treacheries in Arkham Horror, the card game, in total. I'm counting weaknesses, I'm counting basic weaknesses, treacheries, anything that is a treachery card type. And so about 1/7 of those are making it onto this list. And some of them are sort of, I'm not that interested in Avalanche as a card, right? Like, that's not a card that's going to excite me. And here we have, the layer that's, sort of just making it on there. Figure in the Shadows. Is it, especially... there's an edge to it, right? There is, this is sort of the thing that vampires have staked their career on, right? Is this, sense of mystery. There is someone in the shadows. What are they up to? What's their deal? That's about, the level that this kind of card has going for it. Which is, this is not a strong start, but I promise it's gonna go upwards from here. It's only gonna go up. Okay. With a weakness, 99's Burden of Leadership. I mostly put this one on here to evoke Sartha Thrace. And if that reference means anything to you, then you're gonna have a great time for the rest of this video. And if that reference doesn't mean anything to you, go read Warhound. You're gonna have a great time. Lurking Fear. I like this as sort of a setup for the foundation of what this is going to be. The thing about Arkham Horror, the card game, is that it is ostensibly a horror game, right? You're trying to evoke fear with it. And as any decent writer of either the horror or erotica genres will tell you, those are the same genre. They're doing the same thing. There's actually no difference between being scared and being horny. And so we're sort of starting with this foundation here, right? Being scared. That's what this card is about. It's just I also think this card is just funny in terms of they're not trying to evoke any specific fear. This one just says, you're afraid. Great. Wonderful. Dragged Under is much more physical than most of these are gonna get, but there's a sense of, restraint there, of being pulled. I don't really like water. But it's available to you. Caught red-handed. This plays a lot into some things that are not necessarily my specific thing, but that are, so strongly indicated by this card that I couldn't not give it a ranking, right? This is about public sex. This is about, sex that you're not supposed to have, right? That's what this card is sort of doing for me. And I think that the being caught portion is not the portion of that I'm interested in, but it is, the threat of it needs to be there. I think this card is doing something, right? I think it's there for a reason. Ancient Evils. Let's talk Ancient Evils. Ancient Evils is not number one. It would be shocking if Ancient Evils was number one. I considered whether or not to give Ancient Evils a place on this list. In some ways, it's kind of narratively empty. This is kind of one of the utilities of this card, is that what does it mean to have it be Ancient Evils? It's kind of nothing. It's just something bad is going to happen. And I think that most of the time when I'm talking about this game, for the purposes of this stream, the ludic element of the card is going to be largely discarded in favor of the flavor element of the card. But I think that this card just has like such a strong psychic imprint on the community, right? And you can have like, and people have debates on whether or not there's like too much fear of ancient evils, whether people overestimate the like level to which ancient evils is bad or whatever. But I don't think that you can argue that Ancient Evils is not like a card that everybody in the community is like kind of thinking about quite a lot, right? The threat of this card, the presence of this card, it has a presence of its own, right? There is something to that. Cat and Mouse. This one. So we're gonna have to be talking about some cards in the context of the scenario that they're working in, right? The general idea of a cat and mouse game is not that much of anything for me here, right? But in the context of the scenario that this exists in, this is specifically about like your relationship with a character who exists in the game, and I think that we can all agree that there's something kind of fun and flirty about the energy that you have with her in that scenario. We're still in the 90s. It's not driving me crazy, but I think that like there's an emotion, there's like a narrative that's being evoked here that's fun, that's flirty, that's playful. Self-centered, I like it when women are self-centered. It's not healthy for me, but it's always fun. Abandoned to Madness. This is the earliest one alphabetically on this list as a fun fact for you. I think that probably the main thematic through line that we're gonna see on this list is a sort of obviation of the self. Is this dispossession with one's internal sense of reality and identity. And this is sort of the first instance of that poking its head in. I think that abandonment is not something that I find especially sexy personally. And so that's giving it a few ranks down. But basically any card that says you're losing yourself in some way, it's kinky. It's fun. I'm into it. This is sort of in the same vein as that, right? We can see that theme sort of develop here. The thing is that if this were Oblivion of Memory, this would be like right up there in the top, but it's not. It's a memory of Oblivion. I do think that like memory play is something that we're gonna see crop up more. For now, it gestures at these ideas that will come back later. Blasphemous Visions, I don't have a lot to say about. I was not especially attached to the church in my youth. So like I wouldn't say that blasphemy is like my main thing, but we do have at least one instance of like blasphemy being a whole thing coming back later in this list. And this is, you know, a start towards that. Beyond the Veil, something is happening to you that is beyond your ability to conceptualize it. That's kind of cool. Wouldn't it be kind of cool if something happened to you that was beyond your ability to conceptualize it? Ghostly Presence. I am not broadly a monster fucker in general, in as much as a lot of my contemporaries and peers around me are. That said, I do have a known affinity for ghosts, partially because ghosts can sort of do a possession sort of a situation, and that returns to our obviation of the self theme going forward. So I think having like a ghostly presence there is sort of this threatening towards that. And then, you know, we develop on that theme with Chilling Presence, which is like ghostly presence, but it's chilling. And that's a more emotionally high stakes situation to be in. Dark Bidding. I'm not into the specifics of the dark bidding that's happening in this situation. I don't care about the hunting horror. I don't want to fuck the hunting horror, but I do care about there being dark bidding. Just the words dark bidding, it's kind of going for it, right? Dreadful Mechanism. We all know that it would be hot to be stuck in a saw trap. We all have opinions about which saw traps would be the best saw traps to get stuck in. We all have a tier list in the back of our mind about which saw traps would be the best saw traps to get stuck in. This is from the saw scenario, and it's about getting stuck in the saw trap. I don't have a lot of stuff from this scenario in this list, but there is one more coming up Chroma Blight. Chroma Blight is a card where the idea of a Chroma Blight in the abstract doesn't mean a lot, but the specific thing that this card is doing mechanically is that like there is a light shining out of you, and at some point a like creature will emerge from that light if you like let it go unattended. There's like a thing growing inside of you. I want to note that there are a couple of Drowned City treacheries that are not on ArkhamDB, and I couldn't find the images of anywhere online, so I was not able to include them. And I really toyed around with the idea of throwing alien eggs in this list. I'm not an opposition girly, but it would be so funny to put it in the list. So I almost did it for that reason. But this is sort of my gesture towards that. There's a little bit of a breeding thing going on here, right? And I'm not into insects, but there's a bit of a breeding thing going on here. Entombed, this is straightforward. What if you were trapped? What if you were trapped? Everybody loves restraint. Self-destructive, there's like kind of two layers here. One is the same layer as self-centered, where I think it's just like a character trait that I find unhealthily attractive in other people. But then another one is, you know, if you were not fully in control of your own actions, if you like, if you were urged to do things harmful to yourself, that's like a pretty intense form of a retraction of personal autonomy. And I think that that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Vice and Villainy is one of the most straightforward ones on here. It's not so much here for the villainy, although, you know, we all love a villainous woman. Or a man, you know, I don't know what your preferences are. I don't know you. You can like whatever you want. This is my tier list. For me, it's women, but whoever you want. But also, you know, there's Vice. Everyone knows that Vice is sexy. That's why we call it Vice. That's the point of it. Straightforward. Eldritch Accord. There are several sort of evil Eldritch Pacts on this list, and I think that this is the least sexy version of them. But this is not to say that it's not sexy in its own way, right? That you're according with something that is larger than you, that is like unknowable to you, that you're like sort of playing with that fire. Playing with fire is sexy. I am sorry, I'm gonna have to just real quick. Okay, great. I can see where we are in the list. Wonderful. Eldritch Accord is. I just want to keep a track of where we are. Eldritch Accord is number 80. So let's keep going back to 79. Captivating Gleam. This is another sort of, you're being hypnotized by the color. There is the color out of space. I should have prefaced at the beginning that this is going to have spoilers for every single every single Arkham scenario in the entire game. There's like a thing that exists sort of outside you but is becoming like a part of you that your attention is fixated on whether you want to or not. I think that a lot of the narrative of Feast of Hemlock Vale sort of is already playing with this idea that's like very connected in hypnosis, right? It's this very like, oh, everyone on the island is having their brains changed into this sort of euphoria. They're in this euphoric state where their mind is not sort of their own. And this is sort of the card, I think, that most encapsulates that idea in like a literal physical form. The color is there. It's on your arm. It is captivating to you. It wasn't before, and it doesn't matter who you are, right? This is just part of you now. Alien Whispers. What if there were thoughts that weren't your own that were being planted inside of you? I'm gonna have a sort of a chain of different cards on this theme. So after that we have Dissonant Voices, which is sort of the same idea. I'm not that attached to the idea of aliens, but what if there were voices, ideas that were not your own, that were infiltrating your way of thinking? Pale Mask Beckons. It's the same thing, but there's like a specific guy that's doing it, and he is suggesting a specific course of action to you. If it if the man in a pallid mask was a woman in a pallid mask, this would probably rate higher for me. For me, pale mask beckons, sitting cool in the 80s, and I'm happy with that. Um, uh, yeah. Disquieting dreams for the somno girlies out there. We'll do it. We'll do a chain of sleeping ones. I think, not that sleeping is inherently hot on its own. Many times I will sleep, and it's normal. But there is something hot about having an like it's an altered state of consciousness already, right? It's an altered state of consciousness in which you have less agency, and having your agency restricted is, you know, it's something. So we have narcolepsy is you fall asleep. Slumber is just like a more literal version of that. And what could be hotter than slumber? It's even deeper slumber. So we have this sort of chain of sleep-based cards. Obsessive. This is along the same idea of it's both cool when someone else does it, and also, it's you have like something that you want, that you need. You have something that you want or need, but you are sort of unable to like fulfill a desire within yourself, right? It's something that you want that you can't ever quite attain. You're obsessed with something. It's fun to be obsessed with something. Straitjacket, also extremely literal. I have so little to say about this one. It's exactly what it looks like. I would be surprised if this wasn't in some other people's top tens, because it's so like I don't care as much about restraint, but I don't not care at all about restraint. Straitjacket, yeah, let's go. Actually, Straitjacket might even be number 69. Did we pass 69 already? No, this is number 69. We're at number 69. It's Poisoned. What? Who the fuck puts Poison as their number 69 hottest treachery in Arkham Horror the card game? All poisons are not made equal. But let it not be said that there is no place for intox in my life as a fun thing that a person can do. And there are different kinds of poison. Listen, we've all seen Phantom Thread. We've all seen Phantom Thread. We've all seen Phantom Thread. 68, Excruciate. I am not in particular a pain girly. But like it's so intense, and so direct and so personal, this image, this treachery. How can it not do anything to you, But I think that the thing that it's missing for me is to go one step forward to our other Labyrinths of Lunacy card, is that this is the same sort of idea, but with more of like a human intent behind it. The idea of harvesting, the idea that like another person is involved in this process. It's part of it. Descent into Madness. I am... So listen, Path of Carcosa especially, and Arkham in general, we're going to throw around the word madness. We're going to throw around the word madness, and the game's not going to especially critique it very often, and I am fine with that. I'm fine with that. Listen, the concept of madness is obviously like a complicated like social construct that's been used to like oppress a lot of people through a lot of time, and we can problematize the way that it's been used and all of that. But I think that we can also understand that when a card like this uses the phrase descent into madness, that is referring to like a loss of lucidity or of self-concept, and we can acknowledge the ways that that's politically complicated, and also go, but what if I had 3 horror on me and I lost an action about it? Do you know what I mean? Drawing the sign is such like a what if your body was moving to do something and you didn't understand what was happening or why, right? Or you didn't have control over it. What if your body was responding in a way that you didn't have like a conscious awareness of, and it was doing it in favor of like an entity that exists beyond your ability to conceptualize it. Drawing the sign is hot. Drawing the sign is hot. Like, right? Like, if it started happening to you, like, you'd be really scared. But there's also, like, an extent to which, like, it's kind, you know? Mass hysteria. What if it was a group thing? What if there were a lot of people involved in it, What if it was a group thing? What if it was everyone around you? Crisis of identity. Crisis of identity is a lot of the same ideas. I think this one would be a lot higher if it seemed like it was, motivated by another person or by something supernatural. In this case, it really does just seem like a person who isn't quite sure what she wants. In Lola Hayes, I think that this both is sort of fun from the perspective of like, this thing that we've been talking about this entire time, but also in terms of like, it does specifically make you extremely malleable, or whoever it is that's having the crisis of identity. And being especially malleable is something. Calcification. Okay, let's talk about body horror in specific, because a lot of what's been on this list so far, and a lot of what's, like, most of what's going to be on the list, is about, psychological transformation. And, like, broadly speaking, I would say that psychological transformation is higher on my list anyway. But Arkham also just, like, doesn't have as many cards that are, like, something is happening, a transformation is happening in your body. And this is, I think, one of the better ones, for this specific criteria. This is a game. This is a card in which your body is turning to salt, stone. If it's calcium, this is just calcium. But you're hardening. It's changing. I'm trans, and I kind of think it's fun when your body changes against your will. I think that that can be. That's something. And this is specifically a kind of transformation that locks you into place, right? Like a specific kind of transformation that makes you, that takes your agency away. Yeah, okay, so I am aware that a lot of what I have been talking about being excited about so far in this stream has been these pretty, I don't know if I want to say high concept, but certainly, a little bit more out there that I think the normies. God, that's so mean. I don't want to be like. I'm aware that the straight people are gonna go, "What the fuck are you talking about? That this is hot for some of these things." I'm like aware of that, and many of the gay people too. It's. I'm aware of that, but I think that kidnapped is a concept that like a gajillion people can get on board with. I think that even if you are like, not especially deep on like mind control shit, that like kidnapping fantasies are one of the most common types of fantasies for people to have. And this it's just a card that's called Kidnapped. Come on, of course it's going to be on there for you. And for that matter, so is Abduction, which is the same thing as Kidnapped, and so it goes right next to it. And for that matter, Abducted, which is the same thing as Abduction, which is the same thing as Kidnapping, so they go right next to each other. So that's numbers 61, 60, and 59. We are now on 58, Haunted, bringing back ghosts. What if there's a ghost that's haunting you? Tell me that's nothing for you. Tell me that's nothing for you to have a ghost that's haunting you. Terrible secret. Blackmail. High stakes. Things could go wrong for you if you had a terrible secret and it got out. Blackmail. Come on. Through the gates. What if something of you got pushed out of the world irrevocably? This one is so... car, sorry. Can you hear it? We're having fun with the music that the car is making outside. So this one is another one where I think my impulse on this one is informed by what the card does. I don't like this basic weakness as a random basic weakness when I roll it in the game, because I like to play decks that are so combo heavy and so like deck looping based that this card often frustrates my plans. But like the thing that frustrates me about it playing is the thing that makes it appealing in the fiction, right? Something of yours gets removed from the game. What if some element about you, and it might be something you owned, and it might be something that's an inherent part of who you are, and it might be a talent or a trait or a memory, but what if something that you had got removed from game? Bloodlust. I like vampires. And I don't necessarily... I don't know that I necessarily care about having bloodlust. I mean, I'm sure that there is an appeal to that, right? That sort of loss of self for the sake of violence. For me, this is more about like, what if there was someone else, and they had bloodlust, and you were there too? What would that be like? And relatedly, what if that bloodlust was insatiable? You know? And you were there. And you were there. What if? Psychotropic spores. This one is so, like, a trope. Like, this is sex pollen, right? This is the mushrooms have taken over your brain. And, you don't need to find pollen hot in order to find sex pollen hot. It's sex pollen. Yeah, it's not like my home base kink. But I can understand and appreciate it. Yeah, the gift of madnesses. I'm packaging them together. I'm not filling up the list by making them separate, but the gift of madnesses together is what it sounds like. I will admit that the art contributes here. Having the gift of madness carved into your scalp with a knife. Internal injury. Yeah. It just like makes you so dependent. It's so I went back and forth on this one about whether to put it this high. Because where are we in internal injury? Internal injury, we are at number 51 here. Which is like, I don't know. It's the sort of thing where it's maybe not hot on its own, right? But as with all these things, it's all contextual, right? I can imagine the situation in which any of these cards are in fact not fun, but it's like, how accessible are these cards to being eroticized? And I think that this card is pretty susceptible to being eroticized by me or someone else. Twisted to His Will, 50. We're at number 50, so we're halfway through already. Only 30 minutes in. Twisted to His Will, this is pretty direct. What if you were twisted to someone's will? That's, like, I don't even know what to say about that one. It's so, like, clearly... I don't even know if this one just, like, is eroticizable as much as it's already erotic. What if Haster was your daddy doll? Again, this would be higher if Haster was a girl, but for me. But that's but like still it like has that psychic power to it. Out of body experience. I don't know if I can justify this one being up here. But it seems right? I think it seems right. What if you had an out-of-body experience? There's something there. Driven to Madness, same thing as the other ones. I just think it's a little bit more direct and intense and personal than the last version of it. Detached from reality, and this one sort of sheds the madness for something a little bit more like specifically like this is about your like lucidity, your ability to perceive the things that are happening around you. What if that was taken away? And same deal here. I mean, it uses the word madness again, but it's again more specific about the actual symptoms that it's trying to describe in the form of delusions. What if you were perceiving things that weren't there? Offer power. Here we go. Eldritch Accord again, but I think better this time, because this time it's more specifically like there is a thing and it is offering you power. I mean, come on, right? You don't need me to explain this. You already get what's going on here. You already get it. What if you were perceiving things that weren't there again? We have a couple on this theme coming up here. What if you could not trust your ability to correctly interpret the world around you? What if you had to trust someone else instead of being able to trust yourself because there are visions in your mind or whispers in your head, or whispers in your head again, but this time it's caused by someone who's literally named Hypnos. And that again gets to play with the sleep stuff a little bit more. Will of the Spider Mother, twisted to his will, but it's a woman, but she's a spider. If she wasn't a spider, it would be higher. I don't really get why spiders have been like so literarily sexualized, right? Like, why is it that we gotta make Shelob a hot goth girl in the Lord of the Rings game? Why is it that there's so many sexy spider ladies with spider bodies in fantasy fiction? I don't totally get that. It's not for me. But that said, the card is literally called Will of the Spider Mother. And you would have to be a very different person than me if it said Will of the anything mother and that didn't cause you to feel something. So, paranoia. Yeah. It's like so basic, and that's part of why it's so high up. We had the card much lower down that was just like a lurking sense of fear at like card 99. And now we're up at card 40. And it's like, what if that same concept, but it's just like this overpowering sense of like fear that is there all the time. Marked by the sign. I like this over drawing the sign because it's like on your body, right? You've been marked by it. The yellow sign exists on you. You guys want any ice cream? Ice cream truck going by. Sorry about my really not soundproof room. Psychic pull. There's, someone's in your head pulling you to do something. Fuck. Are there really 38 cards that are higher than this? Like, already I'm like, ooh, jeez. Frozen in Fear. It's the same as Paranoia, but it's about your actions, your actual ability to like navigate the world is restricted. Crisis of Faith. Here we go. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm not like a Catholic girly. I'm not into nuns really. More so than any other woman in particular. So the blasphemy element of this is not the main thing for me, although I do want to acknowledge it. But I would say that the thing that really works for me about this is that it's like about your most deeply held convictions and beliefs about how the world works, and belief in like a greater power that's protecting you, and to have those things caught into crisis, to have your deepest convictions bluntly stomped out of you, that's emotionally powerful. And that's something I can work with. That's a corrupting force that I can work with. Mark of the Order. Yeah, so there will be a couple of Silver Twilight cards coming up. This is the first of a few of them. And I like having like an order of people who are opposed to you in like an organized way. I guess like it's strange because what do I mean by this? I'm thinking about it as, as a trans woman, there are in fact organized cabals of people who are specifically organized around hurting me. And I could probably eroticize that if I was in the right context. Yeah, and I could eroticize that if I was in the right context. I think that it's fun to have a cult with this sort of single-minded intent. There's like a lot of power dynamics that exist inside of that. It has been observed by many before that cults are essentially just abusive relationships with multiple people. And I'm not here on this list to condone abusive relationships any more than I'm here to condone kidnapping. I am just here to observe an erotic response. Fragile thoughts. Yeah. What if your thoughts were fragile, huh? Mesmerize. Also sort of surprising how many more we have to go after Mesmerize, because this one really is just like, at number 33, it's like, just very directly, what if there was hypnosis? And, in fact, even more directly, what if there was hypnosis? This is like the only treachery card in the game, I believe, that says the word hypnosis on it. Captive Mind at number 31. What if your mind was being held captive by someone else? The flavor text here says it was not a kidnapping, but an exchange. But I think that, we have each of us considered the erotic potential of the fairy deal, right? The exchange that is turned against you. And then takes your entire mind captive? Hello? 32, Lost Humanity. Same deal, Lost Humanity. You could fit some, pet play stuff in here if you wanted to. I don't need that. I'm happy with just sort of the lost sense of self. Cruel Interrogations. That's just a scene that you can do, right? That's just a scene prompt for a scene that you could do. And it could be really good. Fractured Consciousness. This is Fragile Thoughts again, but more intense, more precise, more specific. Your brain is in multiple places. You can put yourself together and find less of yourself afterwards. Body Snatched. Oh my god. What if you were body snatched? What if there was someone out there who's running around with your body? There is clone stuff in there, but there's also, it's a different angle, I think, on what obviation of the self can look like being body snatched. Call to Order. This is everything that I said earlier about the Silver Twilight Lodge, about like sort of the many power dynamics that are contained within a cult, and a cult that specifically is positioned in opposition to you and is trying to do harm to you. But this one is about like um uh the moment of expression of that power, right? It's the moment when that power is articulated and made real within the cult. They are called to order. And I think that's a really good moment with a lot of erotic potential. False Awakening, it's all the sleep stuff, but you wake up from sleep and you're still asleep. That's so fucked up. I read one Goosebumps book when I was a kid, where it's like a scary guy who haunts you in your dreams or whatever, and then at the end of the book, after the protagonist had won the encounter, they woke up, but then they found that they were still in a dream, and I was like, and I think that changed my brain chemistry forever. We're all learning a lot about each other here, huh? Blood on your hands. This is, not so much for me about the literal blood, although that can be part of it. That's definitely, I mean, it's helping. It's definitely bumping it up several places, the literal blood element of it. But overwhelmingly, the large portion of this is the psychic element of this, the guilt of it, right? That you've done something that you don't remember doing in the fiction. So there's like a memory distortion portion of this as well. And now you can be held accountable for this thing that you don't remember doing. So there's like a potential blackmail element of this, and also an emotional element in terms of like the guilt involved here. It's a really intense thing to happen. And that's cool. Transmogrify. This is the most, I think, body horror. I think this is the most body horror thing that's in here. But like, yeah, I'm a trans woman. What if you transmogrified? What if you turned into something else? Cool. Siren Call. This is, every single card I'm seeing now, I'm like, I can't really justify not putting it even higher than it is. This thing is number 22. And like, it's like Siren Call as a trope, as a narrative concept, is already about something that, like, an often sexualized, like a siren is often a sexualized creature, right? But the point is that it is something that you shouldn't have, that tempts you, right? Often in a sexual way. And probably that will kill you, right? That will, the pursuit of that is explicitly something dangerous, and explicitly something that is against your own best interests, but you do not have full control over your ability to resist such a thing. That's the Siren Call. Need I say more? Confusion. A lot of them from here on out, I think, are going to be variations on what if you were not in control of yourself? What if you do not have your full self-understanding? So I'm going to sort of breeze past a few of those. Euphoria is even more than Captivating Gleam doing the Hemlock Veil thing, the apotheosis of that. It's you are dying, and it feels fucking awesome. You are euphoric about it. This is like I've read so many porns that are just that. So many porns? What am I... Losing the ability to make words as soon as the concept of bimbification comes up on stream. Super. Same deal as confusion, but a little bit more so. Compulsion. Yeah, you're compelled to do something. It's reading the signs again, or it's drawing the sign again, but a little bit writ large. Bound in Red. This is the most bondage one on here. It's both literal, it's like mentioning bondage already, right? But also there is a social bondage that's happening here. obviously, by the coterie, and the coterie is already sort of doing a lot of the same things that the Silver Twilight Lodge is doing in terms of power dynamics. Um, like, you can't tell me that you don't read Bound and Red and get it. Okay. Hear me out. um, this is the most upsetting art in the game. Actually, I'm gonna tab away from this one, just because I expect, you know, I'm tabbed away from it for now, just in case that's a problem for you. But radical treatment is about, you know, I don't necessarily care about the needle in specific, but it's about something being medically done to you, to like change you in like a radical way. And that is in some ways less intense than being magically changed, because it's, you know, just like real stuff that could happen. But I think also the fact that it's real stuff that could happen, gives it like an edge and an intensity that, sort of the magical possession can't always quite get to. I think the fact that we all saw that image, and presumably just about everybody immediately had like a cringe reaction, is part of it. Okay, I've moved past it again. We're on to sell your soul. I mean, fuck. Like, you know, you can lose your sense of self and your sense of autonomy, in terms of so many ways, but your soul is like a metaphysical, like essential ontological part of who you are as a person that, like, I don't even believe exists in the real world. But if you imagine that souls exist, then selling it is like the horniest thing that you could possibly do. Violent commands, is pretty on its face. I don't think that I need to explain that one. Possessed. Yeah. I've talked a little bit about ghosts, and this sort of is the, I think, ultimate form of that. What if there were another being and it literally possessed you? It took control of your entire body, and mind. Like, it's sort of like the ultimate power exchange that you could have with another being, is to be possessed, I think, in like a literal supernatural way. I once again will not explain this one. Unnatural weariness. Yeah. I mean, again, it's a loss of agency over your own body. It just, like, I think it's heightened over some of the other ones because I know what it feels like to be weary, and I think that having it be unnaturally weary, like, I can imagine what that feels like in a more visceral and intense way than I can imagine some of the previous ones. And then we are into our top 10. Number 10, Clouded Memory. So here we are going to have a string of ones along the same thing. Here's the thing about memory play, is that it's, like, incredibly intimate. Like, your memories are some of the most intense and personal things about you. And it's also, like, necessarily definitionally, not something that whoever is fucking with your memory can, like, be held accountable for by you, right? Because you don't remember what you don't remember. Anything could be going on in there if someone's fucking around with your memory. And so, like, that's, like, a part of it. And then it like, is also all of this stuff about agency and about self-perception, about, like, self-understanding, and then also about, like, ability to advocate for oneself, ability to have agency in one's own world and in one's own internal reality. All of these things, like it's everything that I've been talking about, all gets hit by memory. Memory is it's just such an erotically rich play space to be in, I think. So we have a series here, you know, of starting with your memory being clouded is like already like such an intense thing to have happen. But then, you know, amnesia of just like parts of it being like wholly wiped. Um, I also I also think there's something to be said about this card from a gameplay perspective, that it like wants you to be spending all of your time working around it in a way that I really love. It really wants you to be like thinking about the card even when it's not in your hand. Even when you currently remember everything, you have to be thinking about the card that's coming up. Um, so like I think this card is intense in that way. And then the like one step up from I'm forgetting things is like, and I'm remembering new things as well, right? My memories are not just disappearing, but in fact being changed, being altered by someone else, presumably for their own ends, whatever those might be. And then deceptive memories is sort of the same concept, right? Except in this case, instead of just being like, um, uh, they're being changed, it's like specifically to lie to you for some purpose. Yeah. So, number 6, something in the drinks. Your girl can have a little bit of intox as a treat. Fulfill the oaths. This is sort of a surprise pick, I think. I think this one's a little bit off the wall as my number 5 most hottest treachery card in Arkham Horror, the card game. But I think that like so much of what has come before has been about changing like an internal sense of self, whereas this card is about behavior. This card is, there have been some oaths and now your task is to fulfill them. To do things that are against your own interests, to do things that are against your own sense of ethics, perhaps. It's pretty ambiguous, the campaign, about what the oaths specifically are, but you know, I think that just sort of leaves more space for your brain to fill in the blanks. Let's go to number 4, the price of failure. And what if your behavior was modified, but you didn't do a good job? You know? What if you did a bad job? And then that meant that something had to get taken from you. And I think that for me, the only thing more compelling than like, or not the only thing, there's 3 things more compelling than this. This is number 4. But just barely more compelling than specifically having consequences for not complying to some outside oath, some outside will, is your own internal fear of not successfully complying with some outside oath or outside will. For me, the fear of failure is my number 3. Is my number 3. You know, what if it looked like it looks like on that image? You know, what if that was how it felt? What if you felt like you needed to do a good job, or else you would go into my number 2 card, panic. It's pretty intense, right? It's pretty intense. And with just 1 card left, I think it's both going to be surprising in that it's not a treachery card that anyone is going to be thinking about, and also completely unsurprising as number 1, as a card that is just the logical conclusion of every single thing that we've talked about so far. The number 1 hottest treachery card in Arkham Horror, the card game, for me, is Mind Extraction. Because what if someone extracted your mind? This is like, it's so much. We've had so many, like, what if you lost your mind? What if your mind was fractured? What if you lost your ability to conceptualize yourself? But this one is like, and what if someone did it to you? What if someone took it from you? And it makes it personal. It makes it personal. So as a recap, let's just go through all 100 again. Figure in the shadows, burden of leadership, lurking fear, dragged under, caught red-handed, ancient evils, cat and mouse, self-centered, abandoned to madness, memory of oblivion, blasphemous visions, beyond the veil, ghostly presence, chilling presence, dark bidding, dreadful mechanism, chroma blight, entombed, self-destructive, vice and villainy, eldritch accord, captivating gleam, alien whispers, dissonant voices, the pale mask beckons, disquieting dreams, narcolepsy, slumber, and deeper slumber, obsessive straitjacket, poisoned, excruciate and harvested pain, descent into madness, drawing the sign, mass hysteria, crisis of identity, calcification, kidnapped, abduction and abducted, haunted, terrible secret, through the gates, bloodlust and insatiable bloodlust, psychotropic spores, gift of madness, internal injury, twisted to his will, out-of-body experience, driven to madness, detached from reality, maddening delusions, offer of power, visions in your mind, whispers in your head, and whispers of hypnos, will of the spider mother, paranoia, marked by the sign, psychic pull, frozen in fear, crisis of faith, mark of the order, fragile thoughts, mesmerized, dimensional hypnosis, captive mind, lost humanity, cruel interrogations, fractured consciousness, body snatched, call to order, false awakening, blood on your hands, transmogrify, siren call, confusion, euphoria, stupor, compulsion, bound in red, radical treatment, sell your soul, violent commands, possessed, punishment, unnatural weariness, clouded memory, amnesia, memory variant, deceptive memories, something in the drinks, fulfill the oaths, price of failure, atichophobia, panic, and mind extraction. Thanks everyone. I hope that everybody learned a lot about me. And I hope that everybody spent some time thinking about their own opinions on this. I had fun. This was fun for me. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think the hottest treachery in Arkham Horror the card game is. I want to know. I'm not kidding. I do want your top 10 list or your top 100. I'll read it if you make a top 100 list. But I want your top 10 list. And if you put fire on there as a joke about the word hot and how the word hot has multiple meanings, I will kill you.